A pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network, June the 8th. Coming up on today's show, our guest menu looks like this. Barry Remo II, he's a Southern University signee in football. He'll join us on today's show. Of course, Charles Edmond, Coach Vann Pettaway will not be here today. He'll join us next week. Willa Brown, and hopefully we'll hear from Morgan Richard Williams. Here's what's trending on today's show. The latest APR scores are in. How did your institution, your alma mater, do in the APR scores? The Celebration Bowl has a new playing date. We'll talk to you about that. They're moving from their traditional Saturday. Number 3, last but not least, the NBA Finals have started. Who will be crowned? We'll delve into the NBA championships, Boston and Dallas. That's what's trending on today's show. Now we'll bring in the panel, Charles Edmond and Willa Brown. Willa, good afternoon. Charles, good morning.
Good afternoon.
Well, it is going to be a very blistering day here in the capital city of Louisiana, Baton Rouge. 97 yesterday. I just love giving the weather forecast. And today it'll still be another scorcher. 96 degrees, heat index 106. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Charles, what say you?
Yes, I love the summer. This is my time of year. The hotter it is, the better it is for me. I hate the cold weather. I hate it. I absolutely despise it. This is my kind of weather, and we haven't even gotten started yet. We're in June, and you're talking about this heat dome. That's what folks are talking about. We just getting started, folks. Buckle up. Be safe.
Wheeler?
Well, it's starting to get a little warm up here, and, but it's that time of the year. So, I mean, it's what they say is par for the course. So, you got to learn to deal with it. Might as well go on and love it. There ain't no need in hating it because it is what it is. So, you just going out there and do battle and, try to make do the best you can.
Well, out of the 3 places, I guess, Wheeler, where you're at is just it's a bit cooler there, but hey, maybe we could trade places one day. Good morning to everyone in the chat room. We appreciate you watching. Make sure you hit the notification button, thumbs up, like, not only for this show, but the Black College Sports Network in general. We appreciate the support. Well, the APR scores are in. And how did your schools do out there in the chat room? Academic progress report. They come out every so often. You have some good news. You have some bad news. It is what it is. You look at low resource schools. Usually they have a little bit of a different situation. Some schools have gone through the process and they've been in trouble, but now that, they added more academic personnel to the athletic department. And so those who didn't do well, you still feel bad for them and how can you help them? But ultimately, it goes down to the student athletes and getting it done in the classroom. In college, managing your time. If you're a student athlete, or if you're just a regular student, you may work, you may have to do other things, and then plus you have to get your academics straight. So managing your time is something that I learned. And then going back to college as an older student, you had less time, for activities. So you kind of were more focused, and not to say that all students are not focused, but ultimately it comes down, guys, to getting it done. And there is some great news. Unfortunately, sometimes in the media, you kind of focus on institutions or the teams that are not doing well. But for the most case, improvement across the board. Some have more work yet in front of them, and still, I think even if you're doing well, you always seek excellence from in the academic realm. And so, with that being said, Charles, you something happened to my mic. Can you hear me?
Yes. It's kind of in and out.
Okay. Sorry about that. But Charles, how did you're alum of Alcorn and Alcorn or Grambling, and then you went to Alcorn. How did they do?
Well, Alcorn, typically has been pretty solid. I saw their numbers when it came out. And I think, from what I can tell, our administration, our athletic director is pretty pleased. I talked with him the other day, and he's pretty pleased with what has happened. And the thing is, COVID kind of stopped the clock on this whole enforcement. And now the enforcement is back on now that we're kind of beyond COVID. So, some of these penalties, reduced practice time and things like that, that's minor in the grand scheme of things. The postseason bans, I think, again, it's a 4-year rolling average. The clock stopped when COVID hit, and now it's picking back up again. So during that time, during that pause, I'm sure universities and schools had an opportunity to kind of look at what they were doing, or maybe not, and try to improve on that. And there's some schools whose numbers are still low. And I'm not going to, beat them over the head with it, because I understand, being on the inside looking in, how much of a challenge that is. Dr. Jason Cable, who's the AD at Alabama State, was here at Alcorn working in compliance, and he helped us get a couple of $900,000 grants that the NCAA administered to select universities. That helped us bolster our unit in terms of making sure that student athletes were compliant. Some other schools, Jackson State, when he was there, he did that, so to help those schools. So I'm not going to beat any schools up over it. It's a challenge. It's about money in the sense of getting the right personnel, the right numbers. But overall, there's some work to be done for all of our schools. But I think COVID stopped the clock. COVID kind of stopped the enforcement, but now it's back on again. So for schools that are kind of struggling a little bit, they'll have to get back on the horse, because those penalties will get ratcheted up, as those 4-year rolling averages roll in.
Can't hear you, Carlos. Can't hear you, Carlos. Is it just me?
Wheeler, I think we were just talking about the APR, I guess, while
Okay,
Carlos
yeah.
fixes that. Talk about that from an administrative standpoint, in terms of how that looks, and just the challenges we continue to deal with.
Well, I think if there is a positive to it all, it's the fact that nobody lost scholarships. Yeah, so that was a positive. If you want to drag something out of it, uh, the transfer portal issue, that sort of thing, is always going to play havoc, with the entire situation. I mean, I know that if kids are eligible, then the previous school is not losing any retention points for that particular kid. But a lot of kids that are not getting picked up at all, and so that's got to do some damage overall. Also, the 4-year average, the rolling average. Uh, if that bad score is on the tail end of that 4 year, then you got some relief coming next year if the guys do well. But if that bad score is right up at the top, it's going to drag on you for the next 3 years, and so you're really going to have to turn it up a notch. If you're going to get out of the penalty phase, that sort of thing. So it's a catch-22. I've been a part of those NCAA initiatives in terms of that $900,000 grant. I helped get it when I was up here at Coppin State and also at A&T and also at Jackson State. So, I've seen the benefits of it, no doubt about it. And the key is that when it's all said and done, you got to be able to sustain it. So I mean, if you can hire somebody for a year or two, at some point in time, that person's going to roll over into your regular budget. You got to find a way to keep it going, that sort of thing. So, and I think Carlos, with this, NCAA settlement and all this sort of thing, is it going to get worse? Because some monies are not going to be able to be allocated, due to this situation. And but NCAA always kind of finds a way to fund the initiatives that mean a lot to them. It's just a matter of how much does this initiative mean to them. So it's going to be interesting. Definitely going to be interesting.
Well, Brian, Carlos, Brian just made a good point. I was going to bring up these rosters are going to change now with NIL. Roster turnover is real now. And so with that being said, how is that going to impact our numbers? We're talking about just our conference schools with our rosters turning over at the rate that it's going to because of NIL and this ever-changing landscape. So I'm just wondering, from the administrative side, from the NCAA side, from the commissioner side, from the AD side, from the president's side, how is that going to, or is it going to change at all, Carlos? Because if the enforcements are going to pick up, which it appears as if it will, with these rosters turning over, what is the challenges that our universities are going to have to keep those numbers high when your roster's turning over every year? So that, it just dawned on me. Mm-hmm. Brian kind of brought up the point at the time I was thinking about it. How is that going to impact our schools? Because postseason ban, that's nothing nice. The schools have gone through that, schools in this league, and it's not a pretty sight. It's not a good look for the school or the conference that's a part of it. Not a good look for the conference either when it happens. So I'm just wondering what that phase is going to look like in addition to all the other stuff we got to deal with.
Well, the transfer portal, as I've stated before, good and some bad things. And to your point, if you turn over your roster every year, because you turn it over, because what? You got to win, right? And you got to win quickly. So I can sit up here and say, well, you got to do your due diligence, look at some of the people that you're going into the transfer portal. You got to kind of do a background check, academically. How are they? Are they sound? They transfer out, they transfer to another program, then they have to get a scholarship in another program that they're transferring to. So it is a slippery slope. Also, Willard, do you think, in light of so many student athletes every year, you're retooling the roster, will it come a point where they may just do away with the APR? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that's the NCAA's way of keeping folk in line, that sort of thing, and making sure that, I hate to say this, that the have-nots don't become the haves. So mm-hmm. I think it's one of those things, and I believe APR is going to be here to stay. Now, they may tweak it or what have you, in accordance with all this other new stuff, as Charles was saying, like the, NIL and all that sort of thing. They may tweak it a little bit in order to make it a little bit more university friendly. But I don't see them getting rid of it by any means. You got to have some kind of checks and balance in place to make sure that these kids are getting it done in the classroom, that they're graduating in a timely manner, that sort of thing. So, I think the NCAA, like I said before, will find a way to make sure that schools get the funding, that's out there on their part, but the schools going to have to step up to the plate. No doubt about that. Those that historically have not been funding in those particular areas are going to have to start doing so. But I mean, you got some folk on the list, like I saw Alabama A&M on the list. I mean, to me, really no reason financially for them to not, be amongst the haves or amongst those that are getting it done. I mean, I could see, with Valley being on the list somewhat, that sort of thing. But, some of the other schools, I, I just I just don't see it. And that, as Charles was saying, with the roster turnover on a regular basis, that this is going to be a byproduct of that. I don't know if there's any way around that.
Yeah, well, slippery slope, indeed. Now, we don't want to point out institutions, but if you go look at the list, like I've done, you can go to APR database. Some schools in the conference, they have some work to do. They really do. But now there are also some good stories to tell. It's not all bad. Not all bad. For Southern University, they released the information. Women's cross country, men's cross country, women's bowling, and women's tennis posted single years of a score of 1,000. I have a quote here from Coach Banks. APR is a team effort, and I am very proud of everyone involved. It is gratifying to have another good year of APR scores, especially when they reflect the scores of our peer group across the nation. Multi-year scores, 2019 to 2020. Then there's a missing 2 years, COVID. And by the way, I think someone stated it. The penalties, they're not going to have the penalties in place for this year, but ongoing is coming up. Baseball for Southern 945, men's basketball 973, football, which is a lot of people look at that score first. Football was 934, men's track 950, women's basketball 982, women's bowling 973, women's cross country 962, women's softball 963, women's soccer 967, women's tennis 965, women's track 965, and women's volleyball 989. Now, single year scores, and that's 2022, 2023, 950 and above. Of course, men's basketball 977. As I stated, cross country 1,000, women's bowling 1,000, women's cross country 1,000, and women's tennis 1,000. I make the joke, Charles, and I've said this before on this show and other shows. When I was in college, I sat by the ladies, and you know why? and I'm telling you, they were focused. They took great notes, and they did well. So congratulations to the institutions, the specific sports that did well, because there is some good news in spite of, talking about the bad news with APR scores.
Well, being around student athletes like I am, all year from September all the way through May, with all the sports and all the travel that they do and all the commitments they have to make in the classroom, it is not easy. I mean, we talk about these schedules, playing on the road. You got to get off the road, you got to get in the classroom. And, you have advisors that can, sometimes travel on the road to try to keep these kids on the straight and narrow and keep them focused. It's not easy. And I've said this on the radio. I've said this on the air. I have a lot of respect for student athletes because it is not easy. It's harder now than it was when I was in school 30 years ago. And so, for them to do this, it's a great thing. It's a great focal point for them. But then as far as the staffs at the universities, for the ones that are having the challenges, I've talked with our folks and I've talked with other people at other schools. It is a team effort, and it requires staffing and it requires funding to have the bodies, the right type of bodies, the certification that's in place. And even Coach Banks talked about that when he was on your show. when these grants run out, then you got to find the money to keep paying folks to be able to continue to fund those offices. So that's, so it's a two-prong, maybe a three-prong approach. But I'm glad that, these universities are doing well. Some are doing well, and a lot of them are doing well. Some are doing better. So there's a lot to discuss there. And hopefully, we continue to bring in the good news every year, because you don't want a team to lose practice time or postseason. You don't want any of that to happen, because it's not a good look for anyone involved. It's not good for us to talk about it. So I'm glad that, we're schools are doing well, and I hope they continue to do so.
Yeah. That's about the type of kids that you bring in,
Mm-hmm.
Carlos and Charles. It's about the kind of kids that you bring in. We talk about, the study hall on the road and all that sort of thing. And, I've ridden on the buses with, student athletes and, football and basketball, that sort of thing. Your more studious kids are going to get it done. No doubt about it. Your knuckleheads aren't going to get it done. It doesn't matter if you got 10 advisors on the bus. It's all about the makeup of those particular individuals. And,
Mm-hmm.
So, it all starts in the recruiting process. It all starts, at the beginning, and you got to make sure that you bring it in the kind of kids that want to get it done in the classroom. If a kid doesn't want to get it done, Carlos, he or she ain't going to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Don't fool yourself into thinking that you are. We can say, we got study hall on the bus, and, we have study hall at the hotel, that sort of thing. The kids that are studious, that want to get it done, they're going to be the ones that are going to study, that are going to get it done, and those that don't won't. And that's pretty much it.
On that note, you're absolutely right. It also boils down to what you're saying. Those who want to get it done, those who are there to get it done. And, there are some that have started off shaky, but then they were able to regather themselves and get that degree. And that is the main thing. Well,
the stories I can tell. Yes, I would agree with that. Horror stories at the end to try to get to the finish line, but I got there.
On that note, we're due for a timeout. We'll take it right here. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We shall return. Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, right here on the Black College Sports Network. I guess the Jackson State alum, they love the best band in the land, the Sonic Boom of the South. Well, I said we're going to add more pieces of music. I must admit, that was outstanding performance. So, Charles, you can't never say in Wheeler that I don't show some love for the Sonic Boom of the South. In the last segment, we were talking about the latest APR scores are in. And Charles, I'm going to go to in the chat room, and we appreciate everyone chiming in. Oh, yeah, some say, Carla, smart move, sitting by the ladies when you were in college. You bet. You bet. EA says, Charles, totally disagree with it being harder now for student athletes academics. We had 2 advisors for 200 athletes, no Wi-Fi on an 8-hour bus trip, and no iPads, etc., etc.
Yeah.
That's a valid point. And then to what the Wheeler was saying, those who want to accomplish their goals, they're going to get it done. Yeah. And I know all people can talk about it was tough. You know, when we went to school, it was a different breed of student athletes. But the bottom line is getting it done. And you have a lot of resources available to you now.
Yeah.
Than say 20, 30 years ago. Quick little story, Charles. I work with autistic kids, and I work with in elementary school, and I tell them that they're blessed because they have technology now. The way of learning and the principles that they apply is different. And I said something to them that was shocking. I said, when I was in the 5th grade, we didn't have all these luxuries. Yeah. We had to go to that old green board. Now it's a whiteboard. And you had to go up there and get things done that way. You know, timetables. 1 times 1 is 1. You go through the whole list. So you get my drift. So take advantage of the opportunities that are afforded to you.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's a very good point. I guess I'm kind of an old dinosaur. I was looking at, going back to when I was in school and all of that. So, yeah, there's a lot with technology, so with social media, with all kinds of stuff at your fingertips. Yes, the resources are there for you to be able to get it done. It's a lot more, it's a lot easier, a lot quicker, a lot more efficient to get it done than it was back during those times. So I stand corrected on that. It is a little easier than it was back when I was in school to get it done, and there are more tools in the toolbox.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, Carlos and Charles. As you just stated, Charles, it is a little easier now with technology being the way that it is, that sort of thing. But bottom line is, when back in my day, quote unquote, the only book I was opening on the road was a playbook. I mean, I'm telling the honest truth. When we got on the bus to get on the road, I mean, it was about football. And coaches pretty much let you know that, you were expected to have gotten things done prior to you hopping on that bus. When you got on that bus, it was about the game. It was about the destination that you're going to, about getting busy, about getting that W and doing the best you can to help your team win. And, so, I mean, now, we've thrown a lot more ingredients into baking the cake, and that's okay. I mean, we're par for the course now. But, like I said, back in my day, the only book you opened on the road was a playbook.
It's called managing your time.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, that's kind of, what I learned. I mean, albeit going back as an older student, I was more, I was focused. But, yeah, you got to manage your time. And go ahead.
And I will say this, Carlos, even though I was not an athlete, traveling with these teams, my advisors put me through the same rigors as a student athlete. My grades had to be good. As a student broadcaster, I just couldn't show up on the bus and broadcast games. My grades had to be right, especially in my field, which was mass comm. and they were constantly checking my grades. And if there were times in which I was slipping, they would threaten me not to be the broadcaster. They had someone else ready to go. So, I was put through the same kind of ringer as a student athlete, because my grades had to be right, because I had to be on the road with these teams. And it was just something that my advisors at the time put me through. And I appreciate that, because without that, like I said, I struggled to get to the finish line. I had a professor that was going to flunk me and a few other student athletes, and I wouldn't be able to graduate that particular year. My mother said, "You got to finish in the spring of '91, or else." And I just barely got there. That teacher had grace and mercy on me and a few other student athletes that was in my class. The only class I needed to get to the finish line.
Well, yeah, I think we all can talk about our experiences, at our particular institutions. I just firmly believe if you gave the effort and you come to class, show up, give a maximum effort, and I think your instructors, I know at Southern, they were there to help you, to help you finish. And if you had a problem, you come talk to them. Don't wait to the end where it's you're in trouble of not passing that course. But my experience, I can honestly say, was very good at Southern University. And so again, academic excellence. You seek perfection. That's the goal you strive for, and that's what you should do. But for all of the teams and the sports that did well, keep grinding, because APR is not going away. It really is not. Let's add
and quickly, Carlos, on that. The NCAA has spent so much money in implementing that program. To begin with, I can't see how they would back out of it. And even institutions, as we've talked about, have spent a lot of money on this. And I know some would probably like, wink, wink, have it go away, because of all the resources they have to put into it to keep that unit propped up. But I just think, that horse is so far down the road. I can't see the NCAA backing out of it, unless the big power 3 or 4.5, whatever you want to look at it, decide that doesn't need to matter anymore. But I can't see it happening with all the resources the NCAA's put into it, and then the schools will put into it too.
Well, you're not saying that they haven't influenced the power of 4.5, are you?
Don't think that they don't, Carlos. Don't think that they don't.
I'm being facetious. I know they do. I know they do. I'm being a smarty pants. I mean, it shouldn't be that way, but don't get me started, because they get their cake and they eat it too. You remember last week we talked about they're not footing the majority of the bill. The others are. So sometimes the NCAA, we used to joke, means no clue at all, but they're the governing body right now. But it's like this. You can't depend on them for everything totally 100%, but then what they're supposed to do, yeah, you got to hold them to it. But I'm gonna go back to this. That student athlete that wants to succeed will succeed, and there are always hurdles in life. You got to jump those hurdles. If you knock one over, get back up and start back over again. But those who want to succeed, they will.
But Carlos, the NCAA, to their credit, have set aside X amount of dollars for, what they call limited resource institutions. And, but those institutions have to get up off their butts and, apply for those monies. And, their presentations got to be on cue, that sort of thing. So, it's not a thing of we just call the NCAA and say, we need 900,000. Can you give it to us? They want I's and T's dotted and crossed. Your presentation has got to be spanking. It's got to be like that. When it comes time to try to get it renewed, that sort of thing, they're taking you through all kind of hoops and hurdles. You have to go and make a presentation to the NCAA folk, a live presentation. you and your staff, that sort of thing. They want to see what you're doing with the monies, that sort of thing. They want to see how you plan on sustaining those things. And so it's not a thing of, like I said, they just handing it out there and here y'all go for it, that sort of thing. You gotta work to get it, and then you gotta work to keep getting it.
Sounds like you got to have a good plan.
Yes,
Yeah.
you do, no doubt about it.
Before,
No
during,
doubt about
and after.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we got about 3 minutes for our next break, and then we're going to be joined by Richard Morgan Williams. The Celebration Bowl has a new playing date. It's moving up a week, and on social media, the cry has been, "Wow, the SWAC will only have the SWAC championship will be this week. The next week is the Celebration Bowl." Wow! And the MEAC representative, I guess their last game will be something like November the 23rd. So they literally almost have a month. But then I love what the FAMU alum said. Well, we got it done last year with a short break in between. The MEAC up, 6-2 in the Celebration Bowl. It is going to be interesting, but I guess I'm not sure, and I'll check. I don't think it's permanent. I think it's because of the dates. And I think 2024 and 2025, but I could be wrong about that. I'll check during the break. But
I
quickly,
think, Carlos, it has
Mhm.
something to do with the expanding of the playoffs, of the college football playoffs.
That too. NFL also will be playing games on
Mm-hmm.
that original Saturday. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess the question is, will now it'll be a permanent date where
I
they
mean,
at this
I
upcoming
I
year?
like it. I like it. I'm a proponent of it because I'm all for a venue and avenue where our schools are highlighted. And when they're
Mhm.
first out the gate, when they're, pretty much the only game in town, that sort of thing, it brings a lot of notoriety to our schools. So the less that's going on around them, the better I like it in terms of, us getting our just rewards in terms of publicity and things of that nature. Now, as you stated, SWAC coaches might not like it because it's running up on a SWAC championship game, that sort of thing. My thing has always been, if you're ready, Carlos, you're ready.
Mhm.
So I mean, yeah, shoot,
That,
we can sit
that's what
here right now and give 1,000 excuses for why team Y didn't get it done or team X didn't get it done, and we're always going to look for that reason why. But if you're ready, you're ready to go out there and get it done. You're going out there and get it done, and that day and all that stuff, day and time and all that stuff. I just think it's overrated. That's just my
hey,
take on
hey, FAMU got it done. And then when you had breaks before, a longer break, the MEAC still was on top,
it. Yeah.
and the record uh, points that out. Alcorn's been there several times,
Yeah.
didn't get it done.
Yeah. I
So,
I think, just in the times that we've been there, I think if you talk to even Hobson and McNair about that, I think like what Wheeler Brown said, let's play ball. As a matter of fact, if that downtime, yeah, you can heal up your aches and pains, but I think you're used to playing every week, and I think in another world, another situation, I think they would have rather played the game a week later as compared to the two, because there's a lot of downtime, and you don't want that, even though you want to heal up a little bit. So I think this is going to be a challenge for a lot of our teams. But I think some coaches, if you're in that rhythm, if you're playing well, bring it on. Even if it's a week later, bring it on. Let's go. And Wheeler Brown is saying no excuses. Let's
That's
go.
right. That's right. That time of the year, Carlos, if you ain't hurting, you ain't playing. I mean, that's the bottom line. Everybody hurting.
and,
Everybody hurting
and,
somewhere, somehow. Something's hurt.
and, and if you look at it from the other side, you're down a long time. some people may complain about that. Oh, I'm getting rusty. So rest, Russ. I agree. At the bottom line is when the time to start the game off, the better team is going to win. Coach Graves waiting. Sure, it's a disadvantage for the SWAC, but we got to play by the rules of the game.
Yeah.
Hey, I just brought up. It's in my what's trending. The Celebration Bowl has a new playing date. Guess what? If Southern get there, I'm going to just be. Oh my God! I don't know how I act, Charles.
But if Southern doesn't win the game, and then people are saying, "Well, we needed that extra week," well, what are you going to say then?
No excuse. No excuse. I agree with Wheeler. On that note, we'll take a timeout. We'll add Richard Morgan Williams to the show. We've talked about the latest APR scores are in, and the Celebration Bowl has a new playing date. Go in the chat room and see what they're saying about it. No excuses, no worries. Just be happy. We'll take a timeout. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
Welcome back. Wait a minute, Pat. I gotta go. I know. I'll tell everybody Jimmy Butler is not leaving Miami. Anyway, I gotta go. Welcome back to this week's. Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network, joined by Richard Morgan Williams. Now, Richard, good morning, sir.
Good morning to everyone.
Good morning, Richard.
Well, Richard, it wasn't in my trending stories, but I thought about you. College baseball is still going on here locally. LSU lost in the regional play. Grambling State went 0-2. But once again, you look at they lost 8-0 to Texas A&M. But for Grambling State, it still was a good, very good season, and it was 2024 SWAC baseball tournament champions. it's just tough once you get into those regional play.
Oh yeah, you're jumping straight out of the fire pan into the fire almost. So already a team that, and we had talked about it before. They're everything about them was built around that offense, and to not be able to score is not helping them. They weren't as strong pitching as they were hitting, and they ran into a buzzsaw.
Yeah, and it's tough. And me and Charles, we had the pleasure of being at a regional with Southern University and Alex Box Stadium, the old one and the new one. And you're under a microscope now. That atmosphere is just tremendous, and the little things, and not just if you're looking at Southern LSU playing and Graham and Texas A&M across the board. Some of the baseball action I was able to watch. Sometimes the little things can cost you a ball game.
Oh yeah, and then you're coming into it. Gremlin had to fight to get to where they were, so you most of your frontline pitching, was used during the SWAC tournament, which doesn't bode well for you once you get into the NCAA tournament, as all gloves are off at this point. You would hopefully be able to have your number one against their number one and just see how it figures out. But that for availability, that always doesn't happen that way.
The question again: how can we get to a point, when I say we, HBCUs, the smaller schools, does it still come back down to pitching quality and quantity, or it's a combination of several things?
It's a combination. If you look through the entire NCAA tournament, there's always not going to be schools that you've seen in the Power Fives, right? Your Southeast Missouris, you'll see programs like that are able to eliminate Vanderbilt, or So it's, and the SWAC has done it before. We hark back when Bethune-Cookman was a game away from the actually making it to Omaha. So the SWAC in itself is already not helped out just by seeding for once you get into the tournament, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to face the number 1 and number 2 seed starting out. And it's the same, not just in baseball, same in basketball. So you're already going to hit the higher end of the tournament just to try to play on. So pitching, yes, will definitely help. Definitely helps in all situations, but you're fighting up a hill no matter which way you go.
We had a question in the chat room. I just saw it. There we go. Jeremiah Clark. Question: where do SWAC players play in the summer to help refine their game before the fall session?
So there are multiple college leagues around the nation. I know I'm in Alabama right now, Birmingham, Alabama. We have the Industrial Baseball League, which was an offshoot of the original Negro Leagues that was based out of Birmingham. So we have quite a bit of SWAC players and a lot of kids from Stillman, West Alabama. I know on the team I had 3 Alabama Crimson Tide players, one who's in the Detroit AAA system right now, and I have another guy from Stillman who just got picked up in the Pecos League in Texas. So there are multiple places for these kids to play. It's just many of the leagues are invite only. Many of the other ones you have to beat the ground and know people who can get you introduced to them. But for most of these coaches, it's just giving kids the availability to hone their craft during the summer.
It's going to be interesting. Where do you think the focus should be for some of the teams going into next year? Not to say a too early prediction, but where will be what should be the focus going into next season?
You want to give your guys time to relax and recover from a year, but still keep them warm or working on their craft. I know I have to go down to East Birmingham tomorrow, and there's a team out of Pinson. They are called the Birmingham Cardinals, and 2 of their guys are from Alabama State, who I've faced these kids the last couple of years, but he tries to bring them along slowly again, still working on their throwing programs, which for our institutions are very important to make sure that our guys have programs throughout the summer. And I mentioned this before, I think on the first show I was here, that when the fall gets here, you're not just picking up a ball for the first time and trying to speed the process along.
Well, With that being said, Charles, I guess we will have to wait for the official announcement, but there will be some changes as far as baseball coaches in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. In a tough situation, Richard, we know Carlos James resigned from UAPB, and now it looks like Alcorn is going to move in another direction. I guess something official will be coming out shortly.
Yeah.
Yeah, from our standpoint, I was told that it is a it is a done deal. The job posting is on our website, which kind of lets you know that it is a done deal. And it's unfortunate because I thought in 3 seasons, considering what Coach Williams came in, started with 12 players and just no pitching coach, and he talked about that all year, had to play half of his home games in Jackson because our field was being renovated, and had a deal. And even Carlos, I'll say this, the last road trip we were in Houston when they had what was it, EF1, whatever storm they had, it was 1 million people without power. I was there, our team was there, our coach had to scramble and find a hotel, which was hard to come by, on the fly, still had to play Prairie View and go through all that. And I thought that, that kind of situation would help, but unfortunately it didn't. And we're looking for a baseball coach. So that's out there. And of course, we talked about Carlos James. So there's some changes in SWAC baseball. We'll see how it turns out. But it's just so unfortunate because in baseball, how much I wouldn't say pressure, but how much time is given to build a baseball program. I think Richard talked about a 4-year situation where you get a recruiting cycle. Unfortunately, for Coach Williams, it wasn't that way. So it's just a tough situation, and we'll see where we go from here.
And Charles, I'm going to interject real quick. I'm imagining that was a presidential move. I couldn't see an AD in their right mind with the time frame that just transpired, knowing that, the resources, while he is probably getting a full complement of scholarships, there are resources needed in other areas in order to get that program up to where the upper echelon of the conference is. I don't know. It's probably one of those times, fellas, where the president needs to kind of butt out of that thing and, kind of let athletic people who know the lay of the land, let them do their jobs, and, let's see where it kind of goes from there. But that's very unsettling. Really, he only had really 2 years when you look at it. Like you said, he come in the door with 11, 12 players. Come on now, geez. You gotta put some leeway in there. When do we sit down at the table and say, Coach, what is it that you need? And, all that sort of thing. What is it can we do to help the programs and all that sort of thing? I don't know. Just me bitching, I guess. Right.
Well,
it is what it is.
I have a couple of questions, concerns, and Wheeler, I can't believe you're not giving Charles grief as you gave me grief when you said Southern let go of people after 2 years. But did I say that? But let me ask this. Sometimes when you buy a car, it comes as a used car. It says as is. And here's where I'm going with this. Was Coach Williams promised a pitching coach? What was he promised some other resources once he get there? One, did Coach Williams agree to take the job knowing as is what the situation was, with resources? And then the third thing is last year couldn't have helped. And the year before that. Now, with that being said, I see the framework there, but I would like to know, was he promised some things, or did he just he took the job as is. And if he did, then to your point, Wheeler, I think at least another year probably would have been suffice.
I mean, we always take these jobs as is, Carlos. I
Well,
mean, we want to work, we want to
well,
get out there, that sort of
mhm,
thing. So, we're always going to take them as is. But there comes a point in time when rational minds, will sit down and say, look, if we're going to take this program in a particular direction, then we need to look at XYZ, add an ABC, that sort of thing. And if not, then let's not piss and moan, when we
mhm,
wind up where we wind up. So I mean, if coach was supposed to be the end all be all, I mean, come on now, that's not realistic. So I mean, you got to help the guy along. You got to give him a helping hand. I mean, geez,
mhm,
no coach is going to be able to do it by themselves. But let's all get together and come up with a healthy plan to move this thing forward. And if we're not doing that first, prior to showing people the door, then we really have to look at ourselves in terms of, us doing the kids a disservice, us doing the people that we hire a disservice, us doing our fans and our alums a disservice, pretty much the whole 9 yards.
Well, I will say this: there's a lot of factors that we can see, and there's a lot of factors that we necessarily can't see. Um, and
hmm,
and so there's some, wins and losses are important, but let's be honest, in SWAC baseball, for some of our schools that have had not had the success, we won our last title in 2011. There are other factors that kind of go into it as well. So I think we have to. I mean, for me, I agree with Wheeler Brown, Carlos. I kind of agree with you as well. But there are other factors that go into these things, and so
mhm,
when you look at the bigger, when you take you go on top of the mountain a little bit and look down in the valley, you see a lot more. So there's other factors that go into it. I think we all understand that when it comes to baseball and softball, we need a softball coach too. And so I think when you look, and our softball coach resigned, and so I think,
wow,
yeah, I think it's one of those situations where, you just gotta, talk to them. And I talked with Coach Fernandez. I talked to her last week, and it was just unfortunate that she made the decision that she made, because I thought she was making a little bit of progress. But it's just unfortunate, and we just have to look forward, and hopefully we can put the tools in the toolbox. And I agree with Wheeler Brown coming in. I've heard a lot of people when they say at our schools, HBCUs, get what you can get coming in the door, because after that, then you just never know what you're going to get. Like, you need to get a lot of stuff up front on the front end, so you'll be comfortable. So then on the back end, you try to go back and get it, what you didn't get, and then all of a sudden it provides an excuse. This is what I've
And
heard. This is what I've heard from previous coaches, and just talking with different people in this profession that's coached at SWAC schools. Some presently, some are not. But it's just unfortunate for Coach Williams, because he got a lot of support from alums. There were some projects that were in the pipeline, a turf infield for baseball, perhaps. There were some people that were supporting
hmm,
him. So there were some things in the hopper that was coming, according to him. But I don't know if those things are still going to come since he's not there. We'll see where that leads us. So it's an unfortunate dynamic, because I'm personal with these coaches. I know how hard they work, and Coach Williams worked his tail off. And every coach we talked to in this conference said, all corners coming, just keep grinding. As you said, Carlos, keep grinding. And Coach Williams was grinding, and unfortunately, it came to an end.
And
hmm,
Carlos, we know some of these sports are on the back burner. Let's just call it
hmm,
what it is.
mhm,
And if we kidding we're kidding ourselves if we think otherwise. Some of the sports that we sponsor, that we have, are definitely on the back burner. Meaning that if it's going to come down between a pitching coach and an offensive line assistant coach or what have you, where those dollars are gonna go. So let's not kid ourselves from that point of view. So I'm not saying that that's the way it is at Alcorn, but it's the way it is at a few other schools. Your revenue sports, your major sports are on the front burner. Your sports that are successful at that particular
Mhm.
time, you're going to do what it takes in order to keep them, in the fast lane, that sort of thing. Those that have been historically, I ain't gonna say bottom dwellers or what have you. You're gonna be a little bit more slower in terms of getting them the things that they need in order to progress. So you're looking at other ways to judge these coaches, in terms of progress, that sort of thing. Making sure that these kids are getting it done in the classroom. Making sure that we're fighting, each and every day, that sort of thing. While we try to improve our lot, with them, and we try to keep it moving from there.
Well, a once storied baseball program, and you look at Alcorn State, and I know times change. We're in a ever changing college landscape, but at the end of the day, winning and winning championships. Edwin says in the in the chat room, I should be careful because I think I guess he's implying that I think coaches should win championships every year. No, not every year, but almost every year. Um, but being realistic, it's tough, and I understand athletic departments, ads, they have a tough job. But at the end of the day, whether we want to admit it or not, and there are multiple factors in all of this, it sure helps when you're winning championships or have a winning season. And Charles, you talk about some other things that we can't see. I'm sure that's a factor as well. But Richard, at the end of the day, you got APR, you got to raise money, you got to keep student athletes in a good position to help them matriculate and graduate. Then you got college logos now. The NCAA talked about allowing universities to put that on the field. So this thing is open up now. It's wide open. The genie is out the bottle. And so you either evolve, change, or you're gonna be in trouble.
Yeah, the question is to evolve, or what are we really in this for? And that's what a lot of universities are going to have to question themselves when it comes to these coaches. If you're not getting the resources, if you're not getting the additional help outside of your GAs that they can provide you, then are we reasonably saying that we can only keep a coach for X amount of years before moving to another side and actually build something? So I also look at, and this is in my playing days, it may have been different, but also being on the coaching side has made me look at it also from another perspective. These coaches at smaller schools, and I'm not just talking about our HBCUs, it's harder building a brand and also making sure that we're looking at the development of the kids that we have. So is it all about the wins and losses for us? Which, yes, like you said, at the end of the day, you are judged by your wins and your losses. But what else are you doing on the development side? What kind of kids are you bringing in and getting out of school? What type of money are you raising to help yourself and that program? And can that be done in 2 or 3 years? I honestly don't think so, but that's the time that we live in. So these universities, we're going to have to ask ourselves, what are we here for?
Well, let me share this in terms of how we used to do things, and this is going all the way back to the late Willie Rad McGowan, and I was around him for the last 20-something years of his life, and how he was able to get assistant coaches to come and work with the baseball program. So what he would do is he would have some kids that are in school or even adults that are in grad school. And so we had a great relationship with Dr. Johnny Thomas, who was the health and physical education chair. You get your master's degree, you get your degrees paid for by the university, and then they would come and work with the baseball program. And so they would be categorized as an assistant coach. And that worked for a period of time. Now, whether that system is still in place, it is kind of sort of still in place right now. But I think the way it's going right now, is that coaches want to have a dedicated coach to work with that program all year long. And I had a conversation with someone just this morning, kind of an old head, that suggested that we might need to go back due to lack of funding or just tight budgets or whatever, go back to the way we used to have it at Alcorn, which is having coaches double up. You may have an assistant football coach who played baseball that might want to work with the baseball program, or vice versa. We've had that happen, and that has been the case. That was the case many years ago. You know, when I first got there in the 2000s, in the 90s, but it's different now. So, you know, you're talking about doubling up and tripling up positions. You get a little stipend to work with the baseball program, even though you're an assistant football coach. This is just a suggestion that an old head that I talked to just this morning made a suggestion about that. Don't know if we're going to go. I mean, and hey, everything's on the table. You're trying to save a buck or two. That's the way we used to do it, and we got away with it, and it worked. But can that model work in 2024? I don't know, but it's something that at least this one person I talked to believes we ought to go back to, because the resources, it's hard to come by.
I don't know about that one.
I think now the NCAA frowns on coaches who are teaching. They look at it in a mindset of the fox running the hen house, you know, in terms of possible academic improprieties and things of that nature. And I think that's why you don't see a lot of coaches, especially on the Division I level, you know, that are in the classroom that are teaching academic courses, that sort of thing. So NCAA has frowned on that for quite some time now, probably going back to about maybe 2005 or so, that sort of thing. I know when I was at A&T, you know, working at A&T, you know, we got mandated that we had to pull our coaches out of the classroom. We had to put them on to the regular athletic department salary scale, and, you know, all that sort of thing. And so, you know, I know a lot of schools were pretty much in the same boat. And I think that's probably one of the major reasons why now you don't see as many schools, especially Division I schools, where you got coaches that are also teaching classes, full-time coaches, and getting supplemented from the academic side, you know, and very little from the, you know, from the athletic side.
So Richard and Charles and Wheeler, it just seems like from the outside looking in, some things were in the planning stages to upgrade baseball, correct?
Mm.
The most prevalent thing I would think, and that's fine, wants versus need, that pitching coach, athletic department and university, they have to come up with a way, get it done for the next coach. Was it fair for Coach Williams? No. But you got to find the resources and the money to get a pitching coach. Wouldn't Richard, you think that would be the most pressing need? You know, along with some of the other things that they got coming down the pipe.
Yeah, I could use the additional 4-car garage too, but I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon. It's just a state of reality. Like all of our universities, I would love for that to happen, but again, they said, where are we allocating the funds? The money maker is football. If it comes down to, like you said, another special team assistant or a pitching coach, I mean, that's where they're going to put the money. And until we change that thought process, there's nothing that we can complain on. You as an Alcorn alum and supporter, you can complain. Myself as an A&M supporter, I can complain. We're not helping out these programs. And I'll say that, you know, I don't mean this in any disrespect because I hate calling them like that, but like I always call Coach Salt or Coach Rat. But they became this because they were at those programs so long that you knew who they were, right? So when I left Power 5 and I came to A&M, I came for Coach Wesley because Coach Wesley was ingrained in that program, but I knew who he was. I knew his background. So you're losing that when you're cycling through coaches every 2 or 3 years, and you're not given that ability to learn who they are. You know, Southern became a thing because of the coach that they had in place. Now, of course, you have to win down the line too, but they had time, they had opportunity, and but you're not getting that. So it's a
You
hard
you got a good guy in place. Why not get it done for that good guy?
exactly.
That's my thing. If you got somebody in place that's of quality, why not make sure that you surround the quality with more quality? And to get somebody else in there and then give this new guy the world. I mean, what does it say at the end of the day? I'll tell you what it does say. It says that the new guy that you got, you think he's not looking at past history, that sort of thing. He's gonna be out of there so fast it's gonna make your head spin. He's gonna turn that thing around. He's gonna turn that thing around, and then he's on the first train smoking, trying to get to that next job. And then your position becomes a stepping stone position, and you just fighting uphill each and every cycle. You're wondering whether or not you're going to keep the coach, that sort of thing. Because history says if I only got 2 years to get it done, if I don't get it done in 2 years, they're gonna get rid of me anyway.
Well,
So
wait a minute. How many years did he have, Charles? 3?
3. And
Okay.
and the
really
first
only
year,
had 2. Really
yeah,
only had 2.
right.
When you look
Right.
at
The
it at
first
the end
year,
of the day, when you get a
right,
man come in September, come on
in
now,
August.
jeez.
Yeah, he
I
came
mean,
in
come on.
August. Yeah. So he was hired in August, and so that first year, no fall ball, Morgan, Richard, as you know, I mean, how much time is lost when you're hired in August, even though the season doesn't start until February. You've lost fall ball, you've lost recruiting. It's that first year is kind of a wash, isn't it?
Oh, extremely. So a lot of me learning my teammates and learning the school was those mornings I was waking up at 6 a.m. and running up and down the road in the snow with my teammates. You know what I mean? So you lose that camaraderie, you lose that developmental time. Seniors coming to the dorm room, knocking on your door at 2:00 in the morning and saying, let's go to the cage. Let's go hit. You don't have that. Now, those guys may have been doing that on their own. I don't know. If you have kids who have been there before and they take pride in their school, they may have been doing all of those things, but you don't have that constructive outlet with no coach in place. And so it definitely doesn't help you.
I was the biggest advocate for Coach Williams because, again, when he got there, and he's very well spoken, knows the game. His name is etched on the stadium at Heinz Field at Southern University. So he loved the SWAC, and he was understanding all the tradition and all that. So he really wanted to get it done. And if you talk baseball with him, he knows the situations inside and out. He knows the pitchers. He knows the pitchers in this league. He knew what it took to get it done. Just getting the players to get it done. And one of the youngest teams in the country 2 years ago, one of the youngest teams in the country. So you kind of had the foundation there. If you kept that team together a couple of years, let them grow up, let them bump their heads a little bit. I do think that, we could have made a little bit of noise and improved the program, but unfortunately didn't get that opportunity.
So another thing you're missing too is
in August. Classes start in August. How you gonna find kids? Unless you got a ton of kids waiting to see if you're gonna get this job or not. Nobody's waiting in August unless they don't have any options at all. In terms of kids deciding where they're gonna go to school. So I mean, unless Coach had a ton of kids waiting at the door to see whether or not he was gonna get that job, not many of them were gonna turn down opportunities from other places, waiting to see if Coach was going to get the job. So that first year definitely was a wash. There's no doubt about that. Nobody in their right mind would have counted year one at all.
There's another topic too. I looked at it the other day. I think right now there's over 3,000 kids in the transfer portal in NCAA baseball, and not having anyone in place when you already have deficiencies is going to hurt you also.
Yeah. I was going to mention that, Carlos. I mean, the first week of the portal window for baseball is over 1,200 players that are in the transfer portal. And so there's talent out there to get if you can get it. And, we talk about funding. Alcorn does offer their full allotment of baseball scholarships. So that if there's a little bit of a selling point, because some schools are not, we talked about that, not going to name schools, but there's some schools that are not. We're fully funded in terms of baseball. So that's a foundational piece you can use. Now, the other stuff you got to kind of work through. But we do offer our full allotment of baseball scholarships.
Why am I not jumping up and down? Because 11 scholarships is still
It's
not
still not
enough.
enough.
No,
You know
but
it's not.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say this as well. All these student athletes are in the transfer portal. A majority of them will not find new places. And when there are so many student athletes in that transfer portal, coaches can be very, very particular about who they want. I don't know. College athletics it's just totally different now. And
It's
wow.
chaotic.
Well, yeah.
It's
It, it,
chaotic.
it's tough. But Coach Williams, for the record, it's easy for me to say. I'm an outside looking in. Yes, he deserved more time. I'll let you guys debate about how many more years that he should have, gotten. But it's tough. It's
It's
tough.
hard to expect a championship if you're not paying for a championship. He's not getting paid for a championship. He got the requisite number of scholarships, sure. But what was his recruiting budget? What was his equipment budget? Did he have things
Mhm.
like an indoor batting cage and things of that? Did he have the nuts and bolts necessary in order to build a program in the manner of which he needed to build in order to be successful? If we make scholarships the end all, do all, and like you just said, 11.7 is not going to get you enough kids to field a baseball team. So I mean, you're chopping those scholarships up, half here, a quarter there, that sort of thing. But what's the other facet? Where are the other dollars? Where do they rank in terms of the recruiting budget? And things of those natures.
Well, it's tough. It really is. My goodness. I think back to Roger Cador. I'm sure he got out and did stuff on his own to help with resources because it wasn't any there, per se,
Taylor was a good politician.
to his liking. Oh yeah, he
Taylor
shook
was a good
hands.
politician.
Mm-hmm.
He shook hands, kissed the babies, all of that stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
you look behind him. Kerry Jackson came at Southern. Southern loves to this day were just puzzled by that. Why they couldn't have kept Kerry Jackson. I know there's other factors. And then even now with Coach Crenshaw, baseball coach, has some success, but program's been kind of inconsistent lately. Inconsistent. So at the end of the day, I guess if you get what you pay for, but I don't even know if I would say it that way, because some have done more with little, and some have did little with more.
And Carlos, that was the discussion that I had this morning. Just talking with just some of the older heads. Like, look, when I was playing or when I was at Alcorn, we had a whole lot less than what these folks have now, and we did more. And so now you have that dynamic. I mean, and I don't know if it is at other schools, but some of the older heads, people that are my age, maybe a little younger, are having that conversation. Like, coaches making all this money and this and that and that and this and this and that, but yet they're doing less with more. But back in the day, we were doing more with less. So now you have that dynamic that's out there now for some of these programs, not all, but I've talked to a couple of people over the last few days. Like, man, when I was in school, we didn't have that much, and yet we won more. And so I don't know what to make of it. I have to respect that conversation because they were in it and I wasn't. But I'm hearing that a little bit more now. And I don't know if, for our program, we haven't won in over a decade. So it's just one of those things that, we all want to win, and it's just that conversation between the old heads and the new generation. That battleground is there in some places, in some cases, and so now you just have to kind of decide where you want to be. For me, I'm kind of in the middle of it because I'm hearing all sides of it. We don't have a baseball coach. We don't have a softball coach. For
take
me,
take a stand, Charles.
well,
Don't be in the middle. Take a stand.
Charles, we know times are different. I used to tell folk all the time back when I was in school, long time ago.
Oh, wasn't that long ago? Come on.
We didn't stay in hotels until like my junior year in college.
Yeah.
We stayed on the campuses of the schools where we were playing.
Yeah.
Like South Carolina State had Army barracks. We stayed in those barracks at South Carolina State. At Morgan State, we stayed in the basement of the gymnasium.
That could be dangerous.
Beds. Yeah, on bunk beds. And we ate meals in the opposing team's cafeteria. So now, you wouldn't even think of, traveling and not staying in a hotel. We had one 50-passenger bus for like 60 kids. So you had people that laid down in the aisle or was up on the roof rack, laying in and squeezing into the roof rack in order to get some place to lay down, that sort of thing. So, I mean, so we can talk about the differences, and we did more with less, but we're in different times now. I wouldn't dare ask a kid to lay on the floor of a bus. Can you imagine what would happen from a publicity point of view if a kid posted on X that they had to lay on the floor of the bus because there wasn't enough seats on the bus? We couldn't get two buses. We only had one, that sort of thing. So, I mean, like I said, we just in a totally different time. And yeah, we were a little tougher back then, no doubt about that. So, we didn't piss and moan about it. We accepted the fate and, went on out there. We just thought this was the way things were supposed to be. And, we didn't use it as an excuse not to try to get the job done come Saturday afternoon or Saturday night.
Well, I will say this, Carlos, just as a person on the inside looking in, one of your famous phrases, on the inside looking into this, I think it's a part of my duty and responsibility to at least share some of Alcorn's perspective in terms of how we all do business. Everybody does business differently. Southern, Jackson, Alabama A&M, Alcorn. It's just what we're dealing with right now. We've had success with softball. We had success with baseball. We had recent success with softball, making it to a bracket final a couple of years ago. Baseball, when Barry Ray was the head coach, he had it hopping, won our first championship in 2011, and he was doing really well until an administrative change and some things happened, and he was let go. And then Brett Richardson coming over from Florida A&M, he beat one of the hottest teams in the country, Alabama State, when the tournament was in Huntsville. He was let go. And so, right now, I mean, baseball gets the attention when we're winning. Unfortunately, it's kind of gone sideways. And for me, I just want to get it. Hopefully, the administration and the AD will figure it out. We can get back on track again because our fan base is really, really supportive when things are going well. And obviously, things haven't gone well. So you just, you have to kind of deal with the bumps and bruises, the ups and downs of it. And right now for baseball and softball, we're in that down period because we don't have a coach right now, but hopefully we'll get back on track soon.
Well, we had and we desperately have to go to a timeout. We had a question in the chat room. They wanted you to throw out some names. I don't know if you can do that as far as talking about Alcorn's head baseball coach position, but maybe after we come back later on in the show, maybe you can throw out maybe a criteria, what they perhaps looking for from the inside looking. And I also will say this, boy, just sometimes the basic minimum things that you need can go a long way. You mentioned the batting cage. Wow.
We have that.
Yeah.
We have a brand new batting cage, and that's something that coach, again, and for Coach Williams, he was able to get some things. There was a lot of alumni support, some people that were supportive of him, that he made phone calls. So he did, to his credit, beat the bushes to try to get some things. And so I give him credit for that. So we do have, there's, small minimal improvements in terms of those type of things to try to win, right now, to try to help the team win. Batting cage, nets, those type of things. And Richard, those are things that are important that you have to have on a daily basis. And so, a tarp, a functioning tarp. There's some schools in this league that don't even have a tarp that's functioning. There's a school I can name right now that does not. And so you got to have that. I mean, because it's not going to be sunny every day, every series. So again, I'm not calling any names, but I do know for a fact that those are some of the things that some of these schools don't have. And so when you don't, it makes it even more tougher to try to get in a rhythm, to try to, get the things you need to be able to compete and be able to get it done.
Kids are different now from the high school level. Some of them, particularly if you come from Texas, they have outstanding facilities, and they're looking for those type of things when they get to the next level. We'll leave that conversation right here for now. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, special guest, Barry Remo II. Here's a young man that came from an outstanding high school program. Now he's making his next step in his journey at Southern University. We'll talk with him, and then after we talk with him, we'll come back with the NBA finals, and then also WNBA news. Boy, oh my goodness. Sports culture have the same problems that society as a whole have. It'll be interesting. We'll take a timeout. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
As technology continues to bring changes to the world of education, it's time we also reimagine teacher professional development. Gone are the days of one-size-fits-all learning that can only be accessed at a specific time and place. The Stride PD Center is an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that allow educators to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. The best professional development plans are those that include a level of flexibility and choice for educators. Whether you're a teacher, school, or district, visit us today to take charge of your learning.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coach Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Don't forget, hit the like button, hit the notification button, and you can see all the information at the bottom, colesbrownshow@gmail.com, or donate on Cash App, Coles Brown Show. Now I'm going to introduce Barry Remo, and hopefully I'm getting the last name right there. He's a Southern University signee in football. Barry, good afternoon. Welcome to the Coles Brown Show.
Good afternoon to y'all. How y'all doing?
Good afternoon.
Doing fine. Did I get their last name right?
Yes, sir. You did.
Okay. I just want to see. We have your highlights up now. 3-time state champions at Catholic High School. Your recruiting process. Talk about that. Some of the teams that were interested in you and your decision to choose Southern University.
My recruiting process was considered as slow amongst like a lot of people that say. Some people say I should have started getting attention around like sophomore year, junior year when I started playing, but that wasn't in the plan. So my first offer came from South Dakota LCS school and Georgetown, then Alcorn, then Southern came along too. Well, and also I had got some scholarships and got accepted from a lot of schools due to my grades and my testing scores. So it was just like a lot of decisions I had to make if I was going to walk on or take a scholarship at another school.
Wow, Alcorn, South Dakota, interesting. And you also say on your academics, and coming from Catholic High School, for those who don't know, is an outstanding football program, and sports program, but also from an academic standpoint, how going to Catholic and with your family also being involved, how important was that for you when considering your choice in college?
It was fairly important. Like my mom graduated from Southern and got her master's at Tulane, and just looking at it, I knew like Southern was always going to be a choice. Like I got a cousin that's on the team right now. He's a senior. He graduating this year at William Miles. So just having a big family connection with the school, I knew Southern was going to be a choice and a contender in my recruiting process.
The recruiting process then, okay, officially over. Now, Barry, getting ready for your freshman season. What are some of the things that you're focusing on to get ready?
One of the main things I'm focused on is just connecting with the team and just getting to know like all the other freshmen and like, look up to the leaders that's like already been there and just like really just be a good freshman, just be a good player for the team and like make sure the seniors go out in a way that they should, make sure they graduate and finishing up in Atlanta in the HBCU National Championship.
Now, often we talk about expectations. Now, with Catholic High School, their football program, they always expect much success. How will that prepare you now going on the collegiate level? Because at Southern University, you know, the fan base, they expect a lot as well. How how prepared are you for those expectations?
I'm pretty prepared because the standard calculus is excellence, and so just going throughout that day or day by day process, like some like the little things you do is how everything you do it in life. So just going throughout that, just keep the tradition that and the foundation I was taught at Catholic, and just carrying that on at Southern University. I feel like I should have success, and the success should follow throughout the whole team.
Now, we were just talking about academics. So, as far as your major at Southern University, you decided on it on that?
Oh yes, sir. I'm a major in business and finance.
Hmm. That's about the third guy I've interviewed that basically either talked about business education or marketing. I guess because life after football is also important as well.
Oh yes, sir, it is.
Um, Thoughts on the coaching staff? I must admit I did see you on another interview, and you of course you talked about the Bayou Classic, but you seem very fond of Southern University staff, in particular Coach Graves.
I feel like the coaching staff is very well seasoned. Like a lot of coaches bring like years of experience, like in the SWAC and just coaching in general. Like just starting off, we got Coach Graves. Like he been around the SWAC, he know the SWAC. Then we got my position coach, Coach Mark Frederick, running back coach that came from offensive coordinator that came from Prairie View. So we have him as our offensive coordinator. So I feel like we should have no problem with scoring points and getting the team together. Then also we got Fred McNow, cousin of the late great Steve McNow, but well, Air, y'all know.
Mhm.
So like I just feel yeah, Air McNow. So I feel as everybody like we bring it in like a great staff. We got a great staff with some great players, and we just can't wait to show it in the fall.
And it's interesting when you talk about Coach McNair, and we've had Coach Graves on several times. It's important to have that staff, and they believe in the players. The players believe in the staff, but also the Jaguar Nation. The atmosphere, travel on the road. How exciting will it be for you to run out there for your first home game?
It's gonna be a different experience when it comes down to our second game against Savannah State on the Pete Richardson Classic. Just knowing like the whole city gonna be out there, band gonna be doing what the band is known to be doing. Dance is gonna be doing what the dance is known to be doing. Then the whole fan base and just providing like a great environment for us so we can go out there on the field and just perform on a high level. That's just like a dream come true, especially you doing it in Baton Rouge, what city where I come up from, grew up, went to school at, no players on the team for a long time, so it's just like dream come true.
Now, I could ask you about the Bayou Classic. We know about that.
Yeah.
Um, but um, as far as the other games on the schedule, is there any game in particular? I know you look at all of them individually, but are there any other highlights on that 224 schedule that you and the rest of the team are looking forward to?
Not really looking forward towards no game. Just really looking forward to the next one, the first one against McNeese, and whatever's after that, we're gonna take care of that week and on that Sunday.
What can the Jaguar Nation expect from Barry Remo? What
I feel
type
like
of? Go ahead.
I feel like the Jaguar Nation can expect a great player that's coming from a city that everybody around the town grew up from, and just really a winner, a person that want to win, just put on for the city. I just can't wait to do that for on the bluff.
Those high school championships. I
Hmm.
mean, just dominant performance in some tough competition.
Hmm.
How was that feeling to win multiple state championships?
At first, I was like worried, like coming into the game, but just like looking up to the leaders that we already had on the team, like players that's going to play at the collegiate level, and just looking at them and how they took the games day by day, week by week, and how they did practice. Just seeing just seeing some of the habits that they had, I just put that in my back of my head is something I'm gonna do. So just really, it just came in a routine every year, not expecting that we was gonna win. We just knew what we had to do so we can win. So I was just glad to be a part of that around for 4 years.
I got a question for you, Barry. I know you said Alcorn was one of the schools on your list. Congratulations for being a Jaguar. How did you get a chance to visit Alcorn? How was that? How was that like? How deep were you with dealing with Alcorn?
When I had visited Alcorn, they played Prairie View, and that was my first time going to Alcorn, and I really wasn't expecting it to be that like disconnected from a city. I was kind of shocked. I was like, oh, okay, do something different.
Rural,
yeah, it's a very rural area out there, so it was different. But I just had to look at like the whole plan board and just look at all my decisions, make the best decision for me and my family.
Did you enjoy the experience?
Oh yes, sir, I did. Yes, sir, I did.
Good job. Good job.
Well, it's interesting because you take different trips. Some places are small town, rural, very metropolitan. Then mid-sized city. So ultimately, you have to make the decision that's best for you.
Yes, sir.
On that note, Barry, we appreciate the time. Much success in your career at Southern University, and just going on, looking at the highlights. I think Southern University is getting a tremendous student athlete, and I think the best is yet to come for you.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all for your time. I hope y'all have a good day.
All right, thank you. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Barry Remo, 2024 signee for Southern University. It's going to be interesting. A lot of, sometimes it is pressure to win. You're getting to know the person, but ultimately, once again, you become a better player when you leave. You get that degree in hand, and then you go on to a successful life after sports. Kind of like you, Charles, and Willa and Richard. Very successful after your playing days.
He did make me chuckle when he mentioned that first trip down to Alcorn. He didn't realize how far out it was. That took me back to my first time playing out there. I was like, oh my God. This is out here.
Some people like that type of setting. Well, I'm almost shocked that I'm scared to say rural, but but a beautiful campus.
It is.
And I remember I was told the story. Actually, this story is true. My older brother, when McNair was playing there, they had to park maybe 4 miles down the road to get in that, Charles, and that was when it was 1 lane in, 1 lane out.
Yeah.
That was for the renovations. And then he said when he came back, his friend also came, and why didn't come in the same vehicle? But they didn't. How did all 4 of his tires were gone and the rim? What happened? Somebody took advantage of that packed crowd in there.
Well, I will say this, Carlos. I talk with a lot of different student athletes. And the ones that are from the big city, like Destiny Brown, for example, our women's basketball player from California. Mm-hmm. She loves Alcorn. Her mother loves it. It's just, coming from LA, coming to Alcorn, and we all know the situation where it's located. They love it. So you have some dynamics either way. You have some that go to these bigger schools in New York and Florida, coming from small towns, and they love it. And then you have some the other way. So it's just different strokes for different folks. And so, those who love Alcorn love the environment, love the peace, and all of that. And I think that's what makes Alcorn State University.
Yeah, man, the tailgating, the football games, 4 or 5 times coming to Lorman. like I say, beautiful campus, and you can find the best in every situation. City. Baton Rouge, a mid-sized city, 400,000 people. Some
And
people call it
Carlos, you
small
you
townish.
gotta take that. You have to take that into consideration in the evaluation process also. When you're an athletic administrator, I mean, how difficult is it to get kids to come there? You gotta look at that. That's gotta be part of your evaluation process, that sort of thing. So I mean, all those things come into play. I can't judge a coach as harshly, if we're in a setting we're really out there, that sort of thing. Because I know it's going to be a little bit more difficult in terms of getting kids to come there. So I got to take all that into consideration also. Not using it as an excuse or anything like that, but I mean, it's got to play a part.
Yeah, because they've had success. Don't get me wrong.
Yes,
Talking about Alcorn State athletics, they've had success.
yes.
I mean,
I mean, no doubt.
Yeah, you can look at each institution. They've had some success. Now it is, if you've had success, keeping that success. Sometimes it's hard when you're at the top to stay there. If you're at the bottom, your goal is to go up. And if you're in the, can I use this term, middle of the pack? The middle, and when we're talking about the SWAC Commissioners Cup a couple of weeks ago, then you have some goals that you're trying to reach. But it is tough being an administrator, an athletic administrator in ever-changing times. I'm going to switch gears. Maybe we'll get Charles back. But the NBA Finals, who will be crowned champions? Richard, now I know you're a baseball guy, but basketball-wise, in the NBA Finals, have you watched any of it?
Sort of, kind of. I did try to check out game one. I got distracted because the Yankees are playing the Dodgers this week, and that has game one was amazing.
Interleague baseball. I like that part.
Nothing could keep me away from the Yankees and the Dodgers yesterday and these next couple of days. But on the NBA side, it looks like the two better players in the series against the best team in the series. So if I had to pick the best two people out there, I would say it would be Doncic and Kyrie Irving. But as far as a team-wise goes, it seems like the Celtics, and looking back at it, they've built that over, 5-6 years, an actual better team than just the individuals. So it's going to be team versus players, individuals to me.
Well, 107, interesting point. 107-89, Boston over Dallas. And some things that just stood out to me, Boston's depth. And boy, when you have White, you have Holiday, you have Hartford, then you got Jaylen Brown and Tatum. And again, there's a debate about their best two players versus Dallas' best two players. Boston defended well in the pick and roll. Boy, did they. And then maybe an X factor, Korzinga, who was out with a calf injury, he came back and played well. That's another X factor. Also, Boston took advantage of the switches, of Dallas switches in the pick and roll. And they also did something that I thought Minnesota would do more of. They forced Doncic and Irving to defend on defense. In other words, they're dynamic scorers, right? They do very well on the offensive end, but Boston's like, you know what? We're going to make them play defense. And then that kind of will perhaps tire them out. They just can't relax on defense. And the others are pretty good for Boston. We always talk about the others. Those are the players on the team that They don't get the recognition, but they're vital to the team. But they played fantastic, and Holiday and White very well. Now, with all that being said, Sunday is game 2. I expect Dallas to come back strong after getting a severe beating, and it was. They lost by 18, but at several points, it was a 30-point lead. So, from a personal standpoint, Wheeler and Richard, my team is the Miami Heat, so they're in the East. I'm pulling for the East. For some reason, I just don't like Dallas. I don't know if it's us from former owner Mark Cuban. No, it's not that. Kyrie Irving and the other superstar. I'm going with
Dallas
Boston.
gives a little bit more better representation. Hopefully they'll play a little better.
They will.
I'm not a Boston fan per se, and I just want to see good basketball, competitive basketball, and that wasn't on display in game 1.
And it was a lot of, a lot of hype. And it as the game was coming to an end, I thought about the Memorial Day massacre when at the time my team was the Lakers, believe it or not. They lost by 40 points to Boston? And they came back and won the series. Mm-hmm. So I am not foolish in my thinking that Dallas won't come back strong because it's a series, the first team that gets to 4 games. But ultimately, I look for Dallas to come back strong. Now, Boston has lost a couple of game 2s in the playoffs so far. So if you're a competitor, Wheeler and Richard, Alabama State took you out of task in the first game of a series. You want to come back and fight and show that you're better. Wheeler, let's see, South Carolina State, was that A&T's arch rival?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, really,
okay.
North Carolina Central, but
okay, North Carolina Central.
When it came time to fighting for football championships, during my time, it was always between us and South Carolina State.
So, with that being said, when it's someone like that, you want to respond because you're competitive. Charles, I think we got him back, and Charles, I'm coming after you now because, but it's all in love. You said Boston wasn't tough enough; they had something to prove, and no, by any means, one game doesn't make you change your mind. But thank you. We got 5 minutes left. Boston told me to tell you they have nothing to prove, and they are tough.
Yeah, it's just you got to win 4, right? And I text you this the other day. Boston looked pretty doggone good, but I will say that I still think Jason Tatum, who I love, who's from St. Louis, he's my homeboy. They love him in St. Louis. Hey, Jason Tatum still has to show me. Now, can they win the title if Jason Tatum's not on his best? I don't think so. But game 1, Boston looked pretty doggone good. They looked tough. And I think we can go back to that Indiana series. I know that's beyond us now, but 3 of the 4 games that Boston won, Indiana gave it away. So we're beyond that. But I think Boston looked pretty good. Porzingis was a difference maker. And Dallas got to come with it. I mean, they look really good. I still have Dallas winning this series. I'm not backing off my prediction. I still think Dallas, they may get game 2 because game 1 was so easy. They get game 2. Let's take it back to Texas and let's see where we go with it. I still got Dallas in 6 or 7.
Wow. That's all I can say. Wow.
Wow was right. And Wow might be right.
and might be wrong. I will say this about
and Wow might be wrong. You are correct. If I'm wrong, I will stand on the hills, Richard, Carlos, and Wheeler Brown, and say, hey man, I was wrong. But I'm sticking with my guns. I'm sticking with I like Dallas. I like Kyrie. I think he's reinvented himself. I like that whole story. I like Dallas. I like Luka. I mean, they gave Luka a hard time. Luka's got to come with it too now. So, but I think I got Dallas grinding this one out in 6 or 7.
Depth. You missed my earlier comments. Depth. They defended the pick and roll. They made Luka play on the defensive end, and that is the key. Wear his behind out.
Yeah.
Put him in so many pick and rolls, and then, hey, look, he's gonna get his points. But you notice defensively, Boston was swarming, and they were very good on the perimeter. And what I like quickly about Tatum didn't rush anything. He had about 11 assists. He brings the ball up a lot of times. He initiates the offense. He got everybody involved. And Brown is just truly a great two-way player. And I'll say this, Charles, if Korsinga and maybe the MVP was the Boston medical staff, to get that done, they were truly in a good place. But one game doesn't determine the series. Also, we'll talk about this more, I guess, next week. Just get a little bit of the WNBA. There was some news with that. Caitlin Clark now is not going to be on the U.S. Olympic team. A whole lot of just stuff going on with the WNBA.
Foolishness.
There are two sides to every story. So I'll stop there. We don't have enough time to get into it, but I would like to get the panels, and Coach Pettaway will be back next week, his thoughts on the savior for the WNBA. Or was the history made before then? They were great players in the league before. Are they making the golden calf out of Caitlin Clark? Oh, just so much to get into with that. Closing comments, we got less than a minute. Willer, rapid fire.
I just want to see a good NBA Finals, Carlos. I don't want to see blowouts, on a nightly basis. I want to see good, hard, fundamental, knockdown, drag-out basketball. Don't know if I'm asking too much, but it's just what I want to see.
All righty. Richard?
I missed the last week or so, but the biggest thing in my world is Josh Gibson is now the greatest hitter in the history of Major League Baseball. And in hearing that, and I want to bring up a point, see a couple comments that were made. Should his numbers be included in Major League Baseball? Did he face inferior competition? When I would like to put a retort where you look, and I'll be quick, the next 14 MVPs after Jackie Robinson integrated baseball from 1949 on, 11 were black. So I wonder, was the MLB the inferior league as compared to the pro leagues?
One minute left, Charles.
Yeah, I got knocked off because Jeannie Buss was trying to call me, asking should we hire this UConn coach. I had to get off the phone with her. I don't want to talk to her. The Lakers, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? What are you doing? I have no idea. Is it going to be this guy or is it going to be somebody else? I don't know. What are the Lakers doing? Do you want to win now? Do you want to blow it up now? LeBron's getting old. He doesn't have much time left. LA, what are you doing? Let's figure this thing out.
Charles. Hurley over JJ Redick. But anyway, have a great weekend, everyone. Appreciate everybody. Until next Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Time for the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Also to our producer, Melanie, thanks for a great job. Peace and God bless.